Writing algebraic expressions. You're watching this video with Ms.Y Cavazos. Algebraic expressions. Before we begin in writing algebraic expressions, what we need to do first is go over a little bit with what is an algebraic expression. So here we have an example of an algebraic expression, and this particular expression is composed of two terms. That's what we call this here, and that's what we call this here, a term. This term here, a number that is alone by itself, stands alone, this is known as the constant. It will always be a value, any value between a 1 to 1,000, whether it be negative, not just 1,000, 1 to infinity, whether it be positive or whether it be negative. In this case, it happens to be a positive term because of the plus that is right in front of the 8. This next term has two parts. It has the variable part, and it has a value in front of it. And actually, it is multiplying it. This value is called the coefficient. So the number in front of the variable will always be known as the coefficient. Now, to tell apart between these two terms, we refer to the first term with the variable as the variable term, or sometimes you'll just hear the n term. Why? Because n is a variable. So again, either variable term or the n term. This could be w and it'll be w term. Constant, well, of course, constant is a constant term. So when I'm talking about the constant term, I'm talking about constant, obviously. Variable term, I'm talking about the term that has a variable. So this is just an example of what an algebraic expression is, what it's composed of, what are the parts to it. What we're going to do next is we're going to be translating word phrases into algebraic expressions. So we're going to write each phrase as an algebraic expression. We have this example here that says a number n increased by 5. A number n, we know that this is a mystery number called n. Increase is an operation, and increase means plus, to add, so I'm going to put a plus sign, and we're going to add it by 5. Therefore, our expression is simply n plus 5. Next we have a number h. So again, a mystery number who happens to be h. We can call it h. Times. Now times, you've used x to represent times. You've also seen a dot to represent times. You've also seen parentheses to represent times. So what I'll do is I'll stick to using a dot to represent times. So times is an operation. 4. Now, it looks weird to have h times 4. So in math, you won't see that dot in the middle. You'll just see h and 4. But you are supposed to understand that this means multiplication. There is a multiplication in between. Of course, you won't see h and then the 4. What you will see, actually, the correct way to write it, is to have the coefficient first and then the variable. That is the proper standard way to write a term. When there is a value and a variable together, the value goes first and then the variable. And of course, we don't need that multiplication symbol in between. It's really just a waste of time. You need to understand that it's there. There is no need to write it. Next one, the quotient. Quotient means to divide. So we're talking about something that needs to be divided. There are two things that we're going to divide, 15 and y. So this dividing symbol will go in between. So this is going to look like this, 15 divided by y. Of course, this is too junior high-ish, 6th grade level maybe. And because we're not there anymore, we need to rewrite this in a more standard way. And this method is going to be written as 15 over y. This represents division. We won't be using a division symbol. We will be using the ratio symbol, this line is right here. Next we have 7 minus is an operation, so we're going to subtract. The product of means we're going to multiply two things, and the two things that we're going to multiply is 9 and a number k. So we have a mystery number, k. This multiplication symbol is going to go here. So we have 7 minus 9 times k. But remember, we don't really use that multiplication symbol anymore. We don't need to put it there in the middle. We can put 9 and k, and you need to remember that these two are multiplying. Okay, next example we have the product of a number w. So again, product means we're going to multiply two things. So I'm going to put times. The two things we're going to multiply is w and 7 minus 1. Now, times is going to go in between these two. We don't write w times 7 like this. Instead, the value goes first and then the variable. So this right here, it's going to be written as 7w minus 1. Next example here again, the product of, so I'm going to multiply something, 8 with a number x, less than means there's going to be subtraction involved, 6. So this multiplication symbol goes here, that means 8 times x, so 8 times x less than 6 minus. Now the word less than is actually a turnaround word because it is saying that this quantity is smaller than this quantity. So if you were to write those things in order, then this quantity would go first and this quantity would go behind it. So this would be a turnaround. Less than means to turn the terms around. So our answer here would be 6 minus 8x. Next we have the ratio. Again, ratio means to divide. So I'm going to divide two things. 2 and the number y. So the division is going to go in between those two. And then I'm going to add 34. Now remember, we no longer write division like this. 34. We no longer write our terms like that, or it's not even a term, our expressions like this. We don't need that symbol. Instead, we're going to use 2 over y, and then we add 34. And that is our expression. Now, we are being asked to identify the coefficient of this expression here. The coefficient is, remember, the number in front of the variable. So in this case, the coefficient is 7. And the next one we have the variable. They're asking for the variable term. Here is the variable term. It is an 8, but that is a negative 8, and the variable is x. Next, this is asking us for the constant term. The constant term is the value that stands alone. There's no variable with it, and that constant term is the 34, and it happens to be positive, so we just need to write a plus 34 or a 34. We don't need to put a plus. Okay, now we have sentences that are getting a little more difficult. For example, this one here says 3 times, so we're going to have 3 times something. The sum of 3 is going to be multiplied into the quantity of two things that are getting combined. The sum of means we're going to need parentheses, and inside those parentheses two things are getting added. Those two things are followed by the word of, a number n So we're going to add n, and we're going to add a 4. So those two terms are the ones that go inside of the parentheses. So here we have that our expression is 3. Again, we don't need to keep putting that dot. It is unnecessary. Parentheses means to multiply. So 3 times the sum, we're going to add two things in the exact order that they're stating it, n and 4. So here is our expression. Next we have 1/2. So 1/2 is literally 1/2. Okay. The difference of something's going to get subtracted, and in this case two quantities are getting subtracted. So we're going to need parentheses. Two things are going to get subtracted. Those two things are followed by the word of. 7 and a number C. So we're going to subtract 7 and C inside of the parentheses. So we have that our final expression is 1/2 times, means parentheses. The difference, two things get subtracted, and the exact order in which they're writing it is in the exact order we're going to write it in the expression. And that is our final answer. Next one, we have the word twice. Now the twice is a funny word because someone was lazy enough to put the word two and the word times together to make twice. So anytime you see twice, it's simply saying 2 times. So here we have 2 times the sum of. This means we're about to add more than one quantity. So we have to surround it by parentheses. Add. Two things are getting added, and it's followed by, and then they're followed by the word of. So 20 and K. 20 and K are the two terms getting added inside of the parentheses. So those two go inside. But this phrase continues, so this expression has to continue. Next we have increased. Increase means to add. So it is an operation followed by 15. So to write this expression neatly, we have 2 times. Remember, parentheses means to multiply. There are 2 things that are getting added inside of the parentheses, and those 2 things are 20 and K, close parentheses. Then we're going to increase 15. And this here is our final expression. Next we have 1/3. So we have 1/3. The difference of, there it is again, the something of, parentheses. We're going to subtract 2 things. Those 2 things are 5. I'll draw that. And a number x. So it'll be 5 minus x. Then we're going to increase. Again, increase means to add. By the quotient. Quotient means something is getting divided. The 2 things that are getting divided is 6 and x. So 6 divided by x. 6 being the numerator because it's in that order, and x being the denominator. So our final expression, we have 1/3 times the difference of 5 and x, increase plus, by the quotient. Now we're not going to write the division symbol. Instead, we're going to use the fraction 6 over x, and this here is how we would write this this written phrase into a algebraic expression. One more example here, we have the product of. So we're going to multiply 4 and the number m. So 4 times m. Less than means to subtract, but it also means we're going to have to switch something around. Switch the order of something. 10 times, so 10 times the sum of Those three words mean automatic parentheses. And we're going to add two things inside. The two things we're going to add inside, and I shouldn't say things, I should say terms. The two terms we're going to add are m and 3. So I'm going to rewrite this a little cleaner. So we have 4 times m, less means to subtract, 10 times the sum of m and 3. But be careful. Less than means we have to turn these things around. So all of this and all of this are going to flop. Not flop, they're going to flip sides. Flip-flop, I guess. And so we have our final answer that is, all of this goes first, 10 with the m plus 3 in parentheses. Then you subtract the 4m. So basically, these two switch places because this told us to do so. So this is our final expression. I hope this video helps you. Thank you and goodbye.